Hey everybody, my name's Mike Montgomery, and today we're gonna be building this big, oversized, chunky, modern, outdoor DIY sofa. So let's get started on modern builds. Today's project is taking a little bit of a different start than usual. I'm using the thickness planer to remove material from each face of the board to expose good, clean grain and remove the rounded corners. And with each pass, we'll lower it probably about 1/16 of an inch before locking it back down and running the boards through one more time. Some of my 2x10s had a little bit of cupping, meaning the middle of the board was a little bit high, so I planed that side down first before flipping it over and flattening the other. And now when I lower it this time, I'll lock it down and plane the opposite face of each board. Aside from flattening out, the goal is to have new grain exposed on all of my boards and to bring them down from 1.5 inches thick to somewhere between 1.25 inches and 1 3/8 inches. This should hopefully make it look nicer and a little less like basic construction lumber. I think it's a big improvement. Complete! And now it's time to start cutting boards. I put a cut list in my plans with the lengths for all the boards you'll need, and I put a star on all the boards I'm cutting first. Any of the boards without a star, I'm planning on measuring and cutting to fit during the build process. After cutting 4 104-inch long 2x10 pieces for the horizontal stretchers of the sofa, I broke down all the smaller pieces which are going to create our side assembly. On top of all the 2x10s, this project also calls for a 2x6 and a 2x8 cut to 104 inches. Circular saw cuts. Complete! I'm really glad that I checked this. These top 3 vertical boards that all match aren't as wide as the bottom 3. I'll set the table saw fence to the same width as these thinner boards, and I'll make all the boards for each side assembly match. Once that was complete, I grabbed my 2 armrests and I put painter's tape where I'm going to be drilling some holes for recessing screws where I'm going to be connecting my side assemblies together. To do this, I used my pocket hole drill bit because it's got this stop on it, allowing me to drill a 3/8 inch hole without it going too deep. And you can see it's pretty clean with the painter's tape. And once we get all this screwed together, we'll use dowels to backfill all of these holes, so it looks like solid wood joinery even though we used screws. And for this one board on each side assembly, I used my Craig pocket hole joiner to drill some pocket holes for pocket hole screws. I added a bead of glue where each of my boards join, made sure everything was square, and then connected my boards together. This design is 100% inspired by the West Elm Telluride line of outdoor furniture. I like the looks, but the comps go from $4,500 all the way to over $5,500. And that's gonna be one of the sides, armrest like this. But I've still gotta cut a couple of pieces to fit, including this back. There's a few details about this sofa that make it a little bit cooler than just a standard box frame sofa. Like here on the back where you're seeing a full 2x10 from all 3 angles. And towards the front of the assembly, you're only seeing the thin edge of that single vertical. I don't know, I just like the way it's juxtaposing the chunky back with the little bit more streamlined front. And after this next piece was attached, it was time to cut the final vertical pieces, and these are only 14 inches long. After cutting these to length with the circular saw, I ran one of them through the table saw to remove the width of one board. Then I added some pocket screws to the back and screwed it into the rest of the assembly. The good thing here is these will never be seen because the next board we cut is going to cover up this space that we're reaching through, and those screws are going to be hidden. This also snugged up our whole assembly. That's a lot better. And that is one leg assembly finished. And I think it looks really cool. I've got another one of these to make just like it, but I'm not gonna spend too much time on that assembly process. This is where I should probably mention, if you're interested in any of the tools, supplies, or the plans for this project, they'll be linked in the description. And now you can see how they'll come together. It's chunky, but still a little bit more slimline and modern than traditional construction lumber furniture. Next, we're gonna make the platform you sit on and the apron going around everything. And I'm gonna orient this way because this is a long sofa and my shop is not very wide. These 104-inch long pieces are our base or aprons, and I'm making a mark 3/4 inch from the top of each board, and this is where I'm going to be lining up the 2x4 stretchers that are going to be connecting our apron pieces to the side assemblies from the inside. I glued and screwed the 2x4 stretcher to permanently attach it to the 2x10, but I'm just screwing it to the side assemblies. That way I'm able to take this sofa apart into 3 sections and move it if I ever need to. And the only reason I recessed these screws wasn't to hide them, it was just because I had a lot of 1.5-inch screws, and by recessing them just a little bit, it made them the perfect length. Otherwise, I probably would have just used 2-inch screws. And I was happy to report that things looked good after I took this out of the clamps. So I repeated the process on the back apron piece, and on this shot I want to highlight the additional 2x4 blocking I added beneath the long 2x4 connector on top.
Oh, wow.
And in this shot, you see me cutting one 2x4 stretcher for the center of the sofa. I was fortunate in working with some really nice 2x10s, so there wasn't much flex in my apron pieces, but if I did have a lot of warpage, I would add more. But now it's time to cut slats. This is what the actual sofa cushions are resting on, and it's why I made the 2x4 connector 3 inches beneath the top of our apron pieces. After using a drilling jig to make quick, repeated holes for where I'm going to be drilling screws, I connected my slats to that 2x4, and I used this spacer board in between each one. It's about 2 inches wide, maybe 1.75 inches. I got these boards from the decking section at Home Depot, and the cool thing is they're a full 4-inch wide instead of 3.5.
And if you wanted, you could totally add a 2x4 in between the slats and the 2x4 stretcher down here.
But I honestly like that there's just a little bit of bounce.
With cushions added, I think that could make it a little more comfortable. And who knows, I could add that spine later if I need to.
But for now, we're gonna keep this project moving. I grabbed another 104-inch long 2x10, and this is gonna be the backstop that the cushions are gonna hit so that they can't slide out of the sofa. It's also gonna be a cool shelf that you could put things on. Then I grabbed my fourth and final 104-inch 2x10, and I drilled pocket holes on the end where we'll be connecting it to the sides.
Off camera, I added a couple of blocks
for the 2x10s to rest on.
This is a snug fit.
And as you may have guessed, I did not use glue attaching this back piece. This is one of the things that need to be removable from the side assemblies to take this apart. Next, I grabbed the 2x8 that I cut to 104 inches long earlier, and I lined it up with the inside edge of the top 2x10. Then I screwed it to that piece with no glue, because if I ever want to take this apart, I'll unscrew this board and then I can take out the pocket holes on the top piece.
Feels beefy.
And finally, that 104-inch long 2x6 can be put in place. This is going to make sure that the back cushions can't slide out from behind the sofa. Here, I'm adding some blocking to make sure that these pieces don't sag over time. It's just going to keep things strong and square.
Our sofa structure is almost complete, and it's pretty heavy. The last pieces of wood I need to cut and install are for the feet going in on the corners. But first, I want to give a big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring today's episode. If you need a website or an online store, they are your one-stop shop. And now with Squarespace's cutting-edge design tools like Blueprint AI, that has never been easier. And you can get discovered fast with Squarespace's integrated SEO tools. They do all the complicated back-end work to make sure that you show up more often on search engines, leading to more clients. And with Squarespace Invoices, you can get paid faster and impress your clients with on-brand invoices. And streamline your workflow from proposals to contracts, invoices, and seamless online payments all in one place. And finally, with Squarespace email campaigns, you've got all the tools you'll need to engage with your clients, promote your services, and build your business built in. So to learn more, make sure and follow my link in the description. That's squarespace.com/modernbuilds, where you can build out your entire site before entering any of your credit card info. So try it out, and when it's time to make your site live, don't forget to use my code ModernBuilds for 10% off your first site, store, or domain through Squarespace. So as always, big thanks to Squarespace and y'all for watching. Now let's get back to these legs.
I'm cutting my leg pieces out of a scrap 2x6 that I had laying around the shop. And these are going to be the same length as the inside opening here on each side of the sofa. I glued and screwed this in place to raise the sofa 1.5 inches off the ground to give it a really cool, modern, floating effect. This, along with every other joint that we screwed and glued together, is gonna get really strong once this glue has time to cure.
Rock solid. And this last foot going in the center of this 2x stretcher is supposed to hover just above the ground, like a 64th of an inch. But if the middle of this sofa ever starts to sag, it should immediately start touching the ground and prevent it.
And that is officially our final board to screw in.
I don't know how we're gonna move this thing. This floating reveal should look awesome. It's also gonna distribute the weight across my deck boards, and that's good.
Before I can sand and finish this project, I need to cut the 3/8 inch dowels to backfill all of our recessed screw holes that I mentioned earlier. I just add a little dab of glue into each hole and then wipe away the excess before I let the glue dry for about 30 minutes. Then I come back and I trim all of these flush with what's called a flush trim saw. This makes everything look like wood joinery. Nobody knows that there's screws involved in the process of building this sofa at all. If it's not doweled, it's hidden, and the cushions cover up any of the screws on the slats. After the first round of sanding, I came back with a spray bottle with water to raise the grain on all of this wood before sanding it back with 150 grit and then applying a couple coats of water-based outdoor spar urethane. Raising the grain with that water before applying this water-based finish is going to give us a smoother finish, and it also prepares it for being outdoors where it'll get wet.
And I got a crazy good deal on these outdoor cushions. The price is right here. I forget off the top of my head. They're all vacuum packed, super thin, but instead of a 4-inch cushion, like the majority of them that you'll buy online, these should expand to 5 inches thick, which should be a little nicer.
In this shot, you're not going to see them fully expanded because it takes a couple of days for them to get there.
And these are little grippies, so the cushions don't slide.
When it comes to the seat cushions, I'm very happy with the quality for the price, but I do wish that the back cushions were just a little bit thicker, if I'm being honest.
And in case you were wondering, yes, this is a very heavy sofa.
I am grateful though for my buddy Shane helping me carry this, who's typically behind the camera.
It's so beefy, but still super modern. I'm gonna get the cushions on and we'll see how this looks.
Right away, I was pumped though because these cushions fit really tight.
I don't think these are gonna wiggle or blow away, and that's convenient.
And with that, our DIY outdoor sofa is complete. Can I just start this sequence by giving a big shout out to the Thickness Planer. Now that I'm back in California working on these DIY furniture projects, I want to slowly increase the quality and woodworking vibe that I'm putting out. And by machining these boards down, we got a much higher end look, and everything's a little bit more modern because it's a bit more streamlined and contemporary compared to a thick 1.5-inch board. And look at that grain. After putting the fire pit coffee table back in place, you can see how much of a vibe this back deck is starting to become. It's a super chill hangout spot for the summer as well as the upcoming fall and winter. When I originally saw a sofa like this from West Elm that would cost somewhere between $4,500 and $5,500, I knew that was way more than what I wanted to spend, but it was a lot like something I wanted to build. I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments or anything that you might do differently, and just shout out to this chunky high-end design.
Can you see that? I can't even touch both ends. Super pro. If you are somebody that wants to get the plans for these, they're gonna be on modernbuilds.com. This is a super high-end luxury finish I was able to get by machining these boards down. I think I mentioned before there was a couple comp sofas, and they're all like thousands of dollars. And this is the price breakdown of what I spent. So if you liked this project, please leave me a thumbs up, leave me a comment with what you might do differently, and don't forget to hit the subscribe and notification bell. The back deck is coming together. I moved the planer over there so I'd have room for the sofa. Bye, everybody. When life gets hard, stunt it. First take, that works great, I think, yeah?